Season 2 is finally among us, guys.
What is being married like?
Yeah, we've been married for 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
For me, I forget. Like, thanks,
And I'm
fiance.
excited for this new adventure of Season 2. Let's go.
Yay. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
I am here again for another episode of Girl Talk with Sion, Beth, and Leiji. And we realized we kind of already had talked on the topic of mental health. And I think obviously we were all speaking to one another afterwards and we just realized, wow, this is a huge topic that is like
massive.
I don't know how long the last episode was, but it was probably pretty long. But just this sense of like, actually, this is something that because it's so big and so current, and I think there are so many different sides to it, even for each one of us personally.
Yeah.
We just really felt the sense of like, okay, let's get back into it and just have another episode and talk a little bit more about even just focusing a bit more kind of on the specifics of some of the stuff that we deal with. And then also things that we found have kind of helped in the coping with some of these areas of mental health.
Yeah.
Because I think I realized even is in the last episode, I think I was able to share quite a bit of the struggles. And I think this for me is very real, which is I was able to share much more about kind of where I'm at now. And where I'm at now is personally not having so many coping mechanisms, honestly, for it. I'm very much in this position where I'm like, wow, I would love to hear from you guys kind of your journeys with mental health, what you have done to help kind of move forward within it and just kind of ease some of those things that you may wrestle with in the day-to-day. Because for myself, like just being honest is I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing or how to help myself in some of these areas. So I think the likelihood is there's probably a lot of other people like me as well who are like, I want to do something. I want to try some things and see what works for me. So I'm excited about, this episode and this opportunity to kind of hear a bit from you. And I think we will just get stuck in.
Yes. Let's go.
Yeah. So firstly, I think I just wanted to ask Beth, I know we were talking earlier just kind of about this thing of the reality of the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
It is hectic. It is busy. There are so many things pulling your attention all at once.
Right.
From just like the pace at which we do work, the pace at which you can order food being delivered, clothes being delivered, like contacting people through messaging apps, social media, all this stuff. And that one of the ways that really impacts us then is this kind of element of stress or feeling like we never have enough time for things.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to start by asking you, Beth, what has that looked like for you, even this area of kind of like noticing the things within the day-to-day that cause that sense of stress?
Right.
And let me know as well if there are any things that you found have kind of helped in that too.
This is real. I think one of my biggest challenges in life is stress. I'm still figuring out what stresses me out and how to manage it. I've always struggled with stress since a kid. And I've tried many different things that help. I think something that I found just quite recently that really, really helps me to like unwind and let go of stress is just letting myself be creative. I'm quite a creative person. I like to try lots of new things. I've recently got really into like pottery and ceramics.
Yeah.
And so I'm very blessed where I live next door to a pottery studio and the lovely people there let us go in whenever we like. And
not everyone can say that.
I know. Not everyone.
I live right next door to a pottery studio.
It's something that me and my husband love to do together, but it's such a happy space. I go in, I honestly put the classical radio on and I just do and make. And I find it actually, I always am one of those people that I want to be efficient and I want to do something for a reason. So being creative is very difficult for me because me being creative, I'm like, okay, I'll make something for somebody or something useful.
Yeah.
And my challenge is no, make something for the sake of making it and just enjoy the process. That is really, really hard. But it actually, doing something with my hands, doing something that it's like moving stressful energy, it feels like doing something with my hands really, really helps me to unwind. And also just like shutting out the world, leaving my phone at home, going without it. I think something that really helps me is just I feel less stressed when I'm not with my phone for sure. Because I guess everyone's like this. Do you ever just get it where you're on your phone and you're scrolling and you're scrolling? And then you realize you spent 45 minutes just scrolling and I don't feel good. I feel horrible.
Wasting your time.
I would say some things that help me is just leaving my phone out.
Yeah.
getting creative and just moving.
Yeah.
Just moving. If it's going for a walk, if it's painting, sewing, like pottery, sometimes cooking, but not for a reason, not with a time limit. That's something that really helps me.
Yeah. That's so good. And even, I guess one of my questions is, how did you even like find those rhythms that helped you in that? Was it just like a random, you just kind of did it one time and you're like, oh, I noticed the difference? Was it something that you kind of had heard from other people and you almost in a bit more of a discipline kind of way was like, okay, I'm going to make myself do this and see if it pays off?
Yeah. I am a person that absolutely hates routine. I hate routine. I hate discipline. I am very much like spontaneous. Free-flowing. I want to do what I want to do. And so it's not something that I put into practice like regimentedly. Yeah. But what I think I realized was I know I am a creative person. I've grown up in a very creative family.
Yeah.
And I kind of stopped doing it for a while, which is crazy. And actually it's in the first lockdown, I really got really into creativity. It took me through a lot and helped me through a lot of the stress. And so I think I just naturally started doing it because I had time. And that's the thing. When it was lockdown, I had nothing else to do. Yeah. And I was like, just started to play and just started to do things. And something else that massively I also was writing. Like somebody once told me, it was probably your mom, Naomi. I mean, I've always loved writing. Ever since I was, since 2012, I have kept a journal of my life until now. And I still do.
Dang.
I have so many journals and I love to compartmentalize them. I've got journals for so many different things. Wow. I think your mom said, like, it's just so good to slow down and to write things and just to stop. And sometimes like writing with God as well, to stop, to listen. So I don't think I'm answering your question. But I think it just happened. I think it just came out. With the phone thing, I think honestly it's just common sense.
Yeah.
I just figured out, you know, I'm getting addicted to this.
Yeah.
Like I think we all low-key have an addiction to social media.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's so in my face, but I definitely find that. And it's also the thing of where I work, where we all work, that people are contacting you all the time.
Yeah.
And I constantly want to reply to emails, WhatsApp messages, everything. And I just have to shut work off because otherwise I'm constantly on.
Side note, you still need to teach me pottery stuff.
I will teach you.
I will take you to the studio. I was just like, I want to learn this so bad. And I've seen you and I'm like,
we can have a girl talk pottery edition.
Come on, let's do it.
We should.
I'm not that good. I just love to do it. My husband is a lot
more
better.
than me.
I was going to say, you know more than me. I'm like, I just love to make something.
Yeah.
I think. Fun.
Oh yeah, go on, Leiji.
No, I was going to say, I never had like a social media detox.
Yeah.
You know, when people say, oh yeah, I'm taking time off. If you need to contact me, like message me or whatever. And I'm like, I never done that. I think I may have done once for like a week.
Yeah.
But I never really got into a point of having that experience. Like, have you done that? Like, and why?
I think about it.
Yeah, I did it. I did it for, I mean, recently, because I feel like I can only really talk about more recently, because it's like, years ago I didn't have a phone for like 9 months, you know, but recently, like I think it was from the New Year's, so literally this kind of New Year's Eve, I decided, me and my husband both decided like, okay, let's just not, and it was very spontaneous. We'd kind of been talking about it for ages, where we were like, I don't know, I'm kind of annoyed with being on social media, particularly on Instagram, that kind of thing, and I think we just decided like, okay, let's just do it, and just kind of not set a date of like, it has to be this long, but aim for like at least do a month, and then we'll just see past that.
Right.
So we both decided to kind of just, disappear from Instagram. And
how did that feel for you guys?
I honestly, like, it came from a place of me, what I was saying at the beginning of just even this kind of episode was like this feeling of like my attention is pulled in so many different ways. And I also think there was something of like the instant gratification of social media, where it's like you go from one thing to the next thing in literally like a millisecond of a finger swipe, you know? And I think there was also even an element of just like, you're seeing all of this world and life happening around you, and like, but you don't always think about the fact that you're seeing like the achievements or the like fun things, or like the like moments from like maybe like 50 people combined into the space of like 20 minutes.
Right.
And so I think for me, it was like realizing that I was putting like, in some ways, not even consciously, but I think subconsciously putting these like very unrealistic expectations of what my day should be filled with and how much I should be achieving almost. And even creatively, where it's like you would see things and you'd be like, wow, that's really cool. And you don't necessarily think about the fact that actually it took someone like a long time beforehand to produce that final piece.
Right.
Because you can just flick, even on Pinterest, from like one incredible art thing to the next incredible art thing. And you're like, wow, I suck. Like, so I think for me, it was really out of that place of just, I've become so used to instantly filling moments of boredom that I feel like I lost the kind of even what I remembered as a child, which was being bored and then having that boredom leading to something else. So either that boredom leading to me then doing something that I wouldn't have normally done and being a bit more creative or trying something, or that boredom leading me to reaching out to a friend because I was bored and I wanted to hang out with someone, or that boredom leading to me even cleaning my room or doing something kind of service practically. So I think I just had this desire of like, okay, I want to kind of shut down some of the voices that I'm hearing from all of social media and everything and have a bit more freedom to find those moments of boredom and like just see what they lead to, you know?
Right.
So it was really good. I think I still had to be on Instagram to an extent because my work, I do a lot with media and social media management, which is really funny because I really don't enjoy it in terms of like, you should see my social media. I am not a regular poster, but I end up with those things because I'm a bit more visual. And I think that was still kind of a bit hard where it was like, I wasn't fully out because I was still having to post things for like business accounts and stuff like that. But it was like, I really enjoyed it. And me and my husband, Connor, both were like, honestly, like if there wasn't, in many ways, it's like if we didn't have family who like lived overseas or like wanting to update people and that kind of thing, particularly working within missions I was like, I honestly think I'd be quite happy to not have social media and only have like messaging apps.
Absolutely. Yeah. I often think if I didn't need it for everything, I would happily not have a phone.
Yeah.
Like I would happily just have my laptop and talk to people when I'm home and I want to.
Yeah.
Then have a phone constantly draining my attention. But it's like we need it for everything.
Yeah.
I need it for like my bank account. I need it for work. I need it for emails. I need it for it to like when I'm working in team all the time. Like I need to be able to be reachable. And I am sometimes, often feel like envious of the times before when people didn't have that. And people would often like, I talk to my mum all the time. She was like, it was just a lot easier. You know, you just did really stuff, you were bored and you did stuff, and it's good.
I enjoy social media.
Yeah.
I'm happy having it.
Yeah.
I love doing like reels and videos and posts. It's I don't know, for me, I'm really into it. That's why I was saying I never really took a detox. I didn't. I don't know.
Like you needed it.
I never felt that I had to take time off it.
Yeah.
But one thing that I find myself doing it every once in a while, it's unfollowing people. So I try to not be following tons and tons of people on Instagram or Facebook. Honestly, I don't know if you guys use Facebook that much, but I only have it because of my like parents, my uncles and aunties. That's the reason why I still have Facebook by the end of the day. But I try to not follow people that I'm not connected to or I don't really have the necessity of being aware of things. So that's where I draw the line. And even like influencers or YouTubers and stuff like that, I try to follow people that will be good for me, for my mental health. Like I don't want to follow people that will make me think like, wow, I'm not achieving anything. That person is like 5 years younger than me and they're already on their own apartment, living in New York and having like the best time of their lives. I'm like happy for you.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not real. Oh, wow. It's not going to add anything to my life on that, know. So that's the one thing I try to do on like this kind of social media detox. But at the same time, I don't want to feel guilty because I enjoy sharing those pieces of like what I do. I think we were talking the other day about the video I did on my friend's reaction when I found out I was pregnant. So that was a way that I could also share with like my friends that are not close by, or people that, I don't know, follow my account and they like to, I don't know, just hear about it. You know, it was something very special for me and I wanted to share with other people. So I don't know. I think it's just good to say that it's fine if you like social media. It's good if you enjoy doing it. It's no crime or it's not a scene, you know. It's a lot of how you manage and how you work with it.
It's just
and I think the reality is people are wired differently, you know. So in the same way that I said, it's funny that I manage a lot of social media accounts because I actually really don't enjoy it. Is like in the position that I'm in, I'm like, I would love to find the people, because I know that they're out there, you know, and it could even be like a lady, you know, but it's like, I would love to find the people who like actually love doing this and have those people doing this. You know what I mean? Because it's that element of we're not all created to function the same way or to be stressed even necessarily by the same things. You know, we have different stress points. Yeah. So I think you're so right, Leiji, in that of like, it's not a thing of that social media is just bad, because social media also has so many things that it brings us that are beneficial, of connection, like even just instantly being able to I had something recently, I put out like a question kind of like just generally of like, hey, like, what do people think about this? And it's like, I wouldn't necessarily get 20 responses if I just was going one-to-one to every single person, but it's like within 15 minutes, you have 20 women's opinions on something. And it's like, this is interesting. Yeah. So I think, and even for stuff like this, it's like the opportunity to share resources with people and to share, you know, advice and to share our own personal stories and stuff.
I think also for myself, I think I put like time limit on my phone because I have to with my anxiety, because I tend to look through my phone like at night, which is like, no, not good, you know? And so I like looking at it and then I'm like, my brain is just like, oh, you know? And so for me, I think what helps is putting like, okay, you can only be on social media for this time to this time, just to kind of like putting boundaries. So like, you know, because I also have a little bit of like FOMO. So I'm like, if I like take detox, like go off social media for like, let's say a month, I'm like, what's happening, you know? And because I live from Canada, I live abroad, I want to know what's happening in my family's life, friends' life, and so I'm like, so it's just having those boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, it's good. Leiji, I wanted to ask you, because obviously social media is an area that maybe for Beth, maybe for me, and maybe even for you, from what you were saying, areas that we've seen, areas that we've noticed that we've kind of like do find stress points in maybe, and where we're having to kind of figure out how to manage it healthily. I'm curious for you, as someone where it's like you haven't found that much, what would be some areas that you find within your life are kind of those stress inducing points, or things that you recognize, that does impact my mental health? And then kind of just a similar question even that I asked Beth, it's like, how do you cope with it, or how do you manage it?
That's a good question. I don't even know if I stopped before to think about that. I think the people that I'm around, I think that is something that I am very sensitive to environments and like conversations and how they react to things. So I try to be around people that will challenge me, people that will encourage me. So I found it a bit difficult when people were like, oh my gosh, I'm 100% the whole time, all day long. And then I'm just like, oh man, I'm not like that. Or like, I just can't, you know, I have a different kind of flow on my day. I started very slow. Yeah. So, and like my day starts on the bottle and then it goes up to flow. And then I need to go down again by the end of the day in the evening. And I find it a bit difficult when I'm constantly around people that are like super hyped the whole time, which is not wrong. It's just I'm I'm sorry, it exhausts me.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's just how
Yeah.
I feel, you know. So I was actually listening to this, I think it was a Reels. The girl was saying that you're pretty much like a combined version of of 5 people, the closest 5 people you have in your life. So like you kind of who you are or where you are, like it depends a lot of the people you're with that you spend time.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So I think for me, what really helps me, it's like being around people that helps me to be healthy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the question or
No,
like
I think that does totally answer even some of that question because it's kind of fresh insight even for me of thinking ultimately that thing of like, are you surrounding yourself with people that you admire and that you would like to emulate and like to be more like, or are you surrounding yourself with people that actually it's like, you know, you don't necessarily admire and not that you then just only hang out with the people that you admire, you know, like we're all imperfect, you know, and so we're always going to have things where we're not the prime example to people in certain areas. But I think that is just even good in terms of recognizing how important your community is in the shaping of yourself.
Yeah. And
It's
also,
true.
sorry.
I said it's true.
So it comes also to the being challenged as well. It's not only the kind of people that would do, oh, Naomi, you're doing amazing. Oh, Sion, everything you do is just so good. No, it's actually having people around you that will say, listen, I think you should think a bit about like this. I don't know. What Beth was saying, you were saying you need people to come to you and say, you need to rest. You need to slow down. So we need people that will do that as well. You know, that will look at you and say, or I don't know.
Because we all have blind spots and you that's why you have people in your life to be like, hey,
absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you need someone to come to you and say, look, you're doing great, but it's too much.
Yeah.
You know, and people that will help you.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so good. And we all kind of function this way in the organization that we work with. But it's so good to have somebody, a mentor, one person that will come and you can talk to and you can share your stresses, that you can share your fears, that you can share your joy moments, that you can share your highlights with, and that they can come to you and say that, one, encourage you and tell you when you're doing well, but secondly, to challenge you and to say, and to have somebody that you can really trust and that you can walk with. I think is such an important part because you've got an outlet as well, you know? Yeah. And I think it's so important to have outlets, whether that's creativity, writing, people, like sports, you know, whatever it is. I think everybody needs at least one outlet that they have that
for sure
that moves things.
Yeah. And I think even off of that there is such a benefit in having people who have gone before you and who are older than you, because in the same way that it's like, I would hope that some of the things that I've learned from growing up would maybe be beneficial to, you know, a teenager that I'm mentoring, in the same way as like someone who's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s is going to have walked through life and seen the way that pace changes, seen the way that relationships change, seen the way that family dynamics change. And it's like they are often going to be able to bring insight that they have picked up from those years of experience that we wouldn't have right now. Absolutely. Even just that timing or that tempo thing of being able to, the pacing element of being able to say, hey, if you keep on running at the pace that you're running at, like you're going to burn out at this point, you know? So how can we help you learn some of these things now so that you don't reach that point? And the element of just learning from the hard lessons that other people have learned.
Yeah.
Sion, I wanted to ask you, obviously, because we've heard some from Beth and heard some from Leiji. I would love to hear from your side what would be some of those kind of like stress points, and then also the same question, some of the things that you have found have helped you in that.
Yeah, I think for me, I've learned to, as I got older, I wish I learned this as a child. That's okay. We are growing and learning. Boundaries. Like, honestly, I think for me is like something the last 2 years, I think it was even like during COVID times, you know, you have a lot of time to be by yourself and just process things. And I think one of the biggest things is I had to put boundaries, whether it be with people, with, you know, and it's okay for me to say no. And I think I, you know, did a little bit people pleasing and stuff like that, but because I'm like, you know what, like my mental health is like, I need to take care of this, right? And I found myself kind of running dry for a bit because I was just saying yes, but like as I'm saying yes, I am like literally struggling inside. So I think it's just boundaries with whether it be relationships or saying no to certain activities or and so I think for me, which wasn't easy because it's just like, how do I nicely say no, you know? But I know for me to be the best version of myself, I had to do that. And I think to even support those people around me and support myself, and even like the visions and the dreams I have to look after myself, And so, and I think I touched on this the last episode, is just putting kind of things in order in my life, like making sure I exercise, getting the proper sleep, and and also just talking about. And I mean, as you guys know, I have entered the life of being vulnerable. So like, I think,
yes,
so it's been a journey. God bless me. But no, it's just, I think just being able to talk about what's happening inside my head, and, and finding those people that I trust to just talk about those things. And because I think so often with that mindset of independency, as I think Beth has touched on it, is I'm a very independent woman, but I know that I can't do it all by myself. And I think that comes with Oración, like, you're not meant to like walk this alone, like, process this with like the ones that you are, you feel safe with and all those kind of things. So I think with my anxiety and stress level, it's just learning, okay, what am I doing to help myself, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for ourselves, right? And so for me, it's just like, all right, what am I doing to help the situation, and how am I taking care of myself? And I think in the work that we are, it's so easy to get burnt out, and so having to put those boundaries. So boundaries is key.
So good.
I want to ask maybe a controversial question.
Ooh,
because
we love it.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Go there, Beth.
We so often hear now, like self-care, and how important self-care is. And I sometimes struggle with the whole idea of self-care. I think it's definitely important to look after yourself, but where is the line between self-care and selfishness?
Yes.
And where is the line between taking rest and actually just, you need to push yourself a bit?
And even with that, I want to because I think there was a controversy between boundaries, because I think you can push that too far, like saying no, right? So I think the thing is, we know ourselves, right? And so with the self-care, I was like, whether it be like find a once a week or twice a week, just to like, what is it that gives you life? What is it? How do you rest well? And so I think for myself, because I struggled with that, so that's why I struggled. I'm still on the journey of boundaries and self-care. What does that look like? Where it doesn't look like selfish, where I'm not taking it too far, because I think we could easily take it far with boundaries, saying no, and then it's like people are like, okay. So I think I think I went to counseling last year, and that was one of the boundaries was one of the things that my counselor kind of brought up. And I don't remember the official terminology. I'm not a counselor. But she was talking about the kind of 3 different boundaries. And so one was the like really rigid boundaries, which is, she kind of described it where it's like you have a house and then you have the gating around a house. And she was like, rigid boundaries is it's just a wall around the house, no gate. She was like, too loose boundaries is basically the house with nothing around it, and anyone can come in and anyone can leave, and the door is unlocked and that kind of thing. And she was like, but then actually when you look at healthy boundaries, it's like having the house and you have the wall, but you have a gate that is able to be opened and closed like as needed,
Right.
And I think something that I've realized is, because I really struggle with that also tension, where in my mind, Beth, I totally flick between the two, like very repeatedly of, am I overindulging and I'm maybe getting overly focused on myself, and then I'm actually not doing things that are beneficial for me potentially, or I'm limiting how much I could do because I'm now narrowing the field of play that I can work within almost. Because I think my capacity is smaller than maybe my capacity is, But I think something that I realized within myself was where I functioned in having too loose boundaries, so not really even necessarily always having boundaries. And I think sometimes this is even like the very, and I'm sure it's other cultures as well, but even like a very British thing sometimes, where it's like someone will be like, oh, I'd love to have you over. And you're like, oh, yes, totally. Like, we'll arrange a time. And then it's like, that never happens.
Yeah.
And no one ever meets up with one another. And we kind of like sometimes make these promises, or we give people directions because we feel bad to like not know the answer, or we feel bad to say, hey, actually, I don't have much availability. Like, if we're going to meet, it's going to look like meeting in 3 months. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when we don't have those, it's like we don't communicate honestly, and we don't really weigh up what we're saying yes to and what we're saying no to. And what I found in my life was when I was too loose with my boundaries in that way, I overcommitted, I let people down, and it put me into a position then of a real stress mode, which then meant that I became super rigid in my boundaries. So if someone then asked me to do something, I would automatically assume I'm so overloaded and packed that it would be this kind of like, no, I'm busy, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, I think it is this like delicate dance.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's that thing of how can I not go from one extreme, which then leads to the other extreme, and flitting between the one side and the other side, but actually learn how to have this kind of healthy position of communicating honestly, at times, yes, being stretched and saying yes to things that it's like, it's not the easiest thing, but I feel this. And that's where for me, the Lord really helps even. I feel God being like, do it anyway at times.
I think you touch on like the communication, because I think with the boundaries is making clear communication. So like if you were to ask me, hey, Sion, can you come and help with whatever? Let's say with your house, you know, from this, like, can you come and help? And I, you know, knowing what kind of week I had and like where I'm at, I'm like, you know, Naomi, I will come help you from like 12 to 1 or 12 to 2:30, whatever. That clear communications, then that's like, I'm still, you know, coming, but also I have a boundary of like, this is the time that I'm giving you. You know?
Do you find that hard though? And I think it might be a little bit more difficult. Do you find it harder as a Christian and as a missionary, since we're all missionaries? Do you find it harder to put these boundaries in? Because I've constantly got in my head, what would Jesus do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jesus would never, I was like, I don't think Jesus would use the word boundaries. I don't think Jesus would say 12 to 1. But I also know Jesus didn't live in the same time that we live in, where, as you said earlier, there's a million different people pulling us in all directions. And obviously, and I mean, not to go super theological here, but we see in the Bible, Jesus really like going past his boundaries, for example, like going to rest and then people wanting to hear him and him coming back. And so how do we find that balance between sacrificially loving and also taking care of ourselves?
But I think I said this to you the other day, about like you were staffing discipleship training school.
Right.
And it's just like having, I'm having a brain fart.
It's okay.
You go, Leji.
Leji, I'd love to hear from you.
No, I was gonna say it's okay. I got you, girl. Yes. I think for me, on all of this thing about boundaries and self-care, it's in a different kind of level, because now that I'm a mom, I am learning about different kind of self-care and different kind of boundaries. Like I am a mom 24/7. And I feel guilty when I think that I need time for just myself.
Right.
And I'm like, but I need to, like, I have a daughter that is 5 months old. Like, how can I actually just have me time now, you know? Because we are still learning about having a routine with her. I'm still struggling to put her down when she have naps during the day.
Right.
She sleeps super well overnight. It's amazing. But when it comes to day naps, she wants to sleep on my arms.
Right.
Yeah.
So when moms say like, oh, I have 20 minutes that I can run around the house and get things done, I don't have those 20 minutes. She wants to sleep on me for 20 minutes. So it's a real struggle for me right now. I'm going through this. I don't have the answers. I want to get better on that. I am so blessed that I have a husband that really walks with me, and like he understands when I need time for myself, when I really need to, you know, sometimes I'm like, hey, do you want to go for a walk with Katarina? And if he's home, he's like, yeah, of course. So he just gets her, goes for a walk. Now the weather's much better, so it's easier for us to do it. So he just goes out, and then I have time for myself at home.
That's
I
good.
have friends that can come over and just like distract my baby.
Yeah.
And then I can, I don't know, wash the dishes and clean the house and not be worried that she won't see me. And then I
Wants
need,
you, yeah.
you know, and then she will be, I don't know, upset, you know. So
Yeah.
it's a really a big thing right now where
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how I can have those boundaries
Yeah.
with my own
Yeah.
child, you know?
Yeah.
It's
I don't-
learning, like
yeah, it's a
figuring
learning
it out as you go.
process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but the thing about the self-care and being selfish, I feel guilty, and it makes me think like, am I being selfish because I want to I want to have a 1 hour where I'm like, just, you know, I'm going to have a long shower. I'm going to, I don't know,
Yeah.
do my nails, and like, it's just adapting. It's a time of adapting and also fighting that feeling of, am I being selfish?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Beth, the point that you brought up very much like hits home as well,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just addressing the thing even of Jesus going past points, where I'm like, I think we see examples where he totally does that, and he does that a lot. But I think there actually are also examples that you see of him pulling away and him where there is a need,
Yeah.
you know, where it's like actually he gets in the boat and he goes away, you
Yeah.
know, or he goes up to the mountain to spend time with God, you know. And so I think for me that even that statement, I think that's something that I've thought about a lot of, what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
I think on one hand, that's a great statement. On the other hand, I'm not Jesus, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
I am shocked. My theology has been shaken.
But there's this element, I think sometimes, and this was something that I even worked through in my counseling, was this element sometimes that me growing up hearing that language, it kind of created this thing of anything good, anything positive, anything effective, anything beneficial, anything Christ-like. I have to be all of those things. And if I'm not all of those things, then I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And so I need to be really like quiet and considerate and wise, but I also need to be really outgoing and like passionate and like a really good spokesperson or something. And it's like the reality is like we are human. Like we were not created to be all things. And so even like I believe that even God, when he like took on flesh, was limited by certain elements of his humanity. You know, like there were certain things that in his personality he would have probably enjoyed more, and some things that he wouldn't have enjoyed as much. But what we see is like Jesus, he even says it's like, I did nothing. It's basically like he says like, I don't remember all the phrasing. You're gonna have to look this up. But just this thing of him basically doing only the will of the Father. Like everything that you see me doing, I'm doing because it's the will of the Father.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think for us, my journey with that is kind of learning this thing of, okay, God, who have you actually created me to be? And taking things to him. Where should I push past? And where should I stretch myself? Where should I actually keep this boundary and say no? And it's not easy, and it's never going to be a black and white answer.
Yeah.
But I think it's that everyday working things through.
Yeah.
And again, like this is a whole nother episode that we're doing about mental health. We could probably have talked for so much longer. I'm realizing that we probably need to kind of wrap up pretty soon. So I think just even in that is like, we're all on a journey with it. And I don't think we have the right answers. But I think that point that you brought up is really good, of that tension of it isn't just going to thinking about myself, looking after myself, but it's also the where am I maybe actually putting a ceiling on what my capacity is, where actually my capacity is beyond what that ceiling is.
Right.
But I just don't know it because I don't put myself or stretch myself in those kind of scenarios.
Can I
and
just
contexts.
quickly add something with the what would Jesus do? Is like I when I have done that, like what would Jesus do? Well, Jesus wouldn't yell, and he's, you know, patient and loving. And if I don't always look after myself, that's going to come out, you know, not loving and kind and, you know, all these kind of things. So I think it's like using your common sense and like,
Yeah. And I to close, I want to leave us with one thing as well that a good friend of ours who's behind the cameras often says. So Jonathan will often say to me this thing of your no to one thing is a yes to something else. And I think it's sometimes helpful for us to realize that of like in going through these processes and in trying to make the wise decision, but also the decision that is like led by God and that is like not always just the most comfortable thing for us, but sometimes maybe is looking at it in that bigger picture of if I say no to this, why am I saying no to it and what am I saying yes to?
Yeah.
You know, and which one of those actually does take priority and which one of those has God even spoken should take priority in my life.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
I think if we leave it there,
good.
Leave it there.
so many
good.
things.
Walls and gates, people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Walls and gates.
Walls and gates.
Always learning.